about 10 seconds. Give it 10 seconds. Should be live now.
Okay. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can all hear me. Thank you for joining us this evening. We are reaching that stage in school where anxiety levels are increasing slightly, particularly amongst those students who are beginning to realise they've got external exams to sit in just a few weeks. There's a saying in the army that proper preparation prevents poor performance. And as we all know, if we walk into a room prepared for what we're going to face, we are much more likely to be able to produce our best performance in that situation. So tonight, Mr. Pitt's going to talk to you about how you can support your young person in their preparation for the exams to make sure that they are in a place where they are comfortable and ready for those exams when they come. So without further ado, I will hand over to Mr. Pitt this evening. Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Dill. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mr. Pitt, so I'm the head of sixth form here. I have the pleasure of teaching many of your sons and daughters for history in year 11 and also history and sociology in sixth form. But as I say, also have the pleasure of being the head of sixth form here. Along with me today is Mr. Cheetham. You guys got the slides on that? Yeah, it's Mr. Cheetham, who is a history teacher, but also head of Key Stage 4. If you've got any questions during the presentation, do feel free to put them into the chat. And Mr. Cheetham will either answer them as we go along, or else we'll deal with those at the end. So the main purpose of the session today really is to look at what you can do to support your son or daughter with their revision. You know, you could take a horse to water, but you can't necessarily make them revise for a set of exams. So we're looking at really what is it that you can do as parents to support the children. And I think probably the key takeaway is to support them as much as you can, but without policing them and adding to their stress. My children are now 10 and 12, and they're already pretty resistant to my wisdom. Hopefully there's something you'll be able to take from what I'm saying, but I do appreciate that it is hard to manage our students at this particular time. I'm going to start off just by sharing some key dates with you. So I know we've got two sets of parents here, so parents of students in year 11 that are sitting GCSEs and parents of students in year 13 that are sitting A levels. And there's obviously different demands on these sets of students. So for those students in year 11 at GCSE, one of the big challenges is that they have so many different subjects to revise for, you know, such a breadth of different topics to learn. So the dates moving forward for year 11, just to give you a heads up. So the GCSE exams begin on the 16th of May. There's a half-term break within that, from the 28th of May to the 5th of June. GCSE exams end on the 27th of June. Immediately after that, we have taster sessions for students that are looking to stay on in sixth form, which teach them about sixth form subjects. And then the results day for GCSE is Thursday, the 25th of August. The challenge for those students in year 13 is slightly different. So on the A levels, there's less subjects to revise, but a greater level of depth. And some of those students that are doing vocational subjects in sixth form won't actually have many exams. They may not have any exams, okay? But for those that do have exams, those exams tend to require a greater level of depth. So the key dates moving forward for our year 13 students, the 9th of May, we're going to send those A-level students on study leave. So at that point, there won't be compulsory A-level lessons anymore in most subjects. Some teachers may still want students to attend, and if they're doing those vocational coursework subjects, they'll still be expected to attend until they've finished all of their coursework. But for most of the students, the formal lessons finish at that point. Then on the 23rd of May, the A-level exams begin. Again, there's that 1 week half-term break, the same as the GCSEs, from the 28th of May to the 5th of June. A-level exams finish on the 24th of June. And the results day for A-level students is Thursday, the 18th of August. So those are your key dates moving forward. I'm just going to turn off my camera now so we can focus on the slides. Yeah, so to start off with, we thought the purpose tonight was really, we've done some work with the students in year 11 and 13 in school on, you know, preparing for their exams, and we're going to do one more session with them after the holidays on the final approach to exams. but it seemed to make sense that, you know, we also engage with you as parents in terms of how you can support the students. So I'm going to start off just by rattling through pretty quickly with you the information that we shared with the year 11 and 13 students in school in our sessions on revision. All of the sessions are actually recorded on Teams for the students, so if they did miss any of those, they can go back and watch those sessions again. And the key materials, the key resources, were part of the document that I sent out yesterday. So all of the materials we shared with the students, you should also have a copy of yourselves as well. But I'm going to go through this pretty quickly because, as I say, you don't really want to micromanage their revision too much. So this is what we shared with the students, and I'm just going to draw out some of the key points. So we said to the students the importance of having a nice kind of revision environment, ideally a kind of desk where it's nice and quiet. Obviously that depends on the kind of setup of your house and whether you're fortunate enough to have that. We spent some time talking to them about the revision environment and the importance of them avoiding distractions. So it's hard to do, isn't it? But if they can actually turn that phone off, put it outside of the door so that they're focused for that period of revision. We spoke to them about sorting out their resources, getting hold of past papers, getting hold of syllabi in preparation for that revision. And then those sort of final preparations, those habits to get into. So, you know, if the students can get into the habit of doing some exercise, maybe going to the gym, that's going to stand them in good stead, or maybe even just going out for a stroll with yourselves every now and then. Trying to keep, you know, activities and social life going within limits. So if they play a sport, you know, trying to keep that going, trying to see their friends a little bit, but avoiding those big nights out because they really are going to cut into revision time and, you know, the morning afterwards as well. So trying to cut down on that. And also, again, hopefully something you've discussed with them, if they've got a job, looking in that run up to the exams and in that final exam period and cutting right down on their work hours, maybe if they can, stopping that job altogether till after the exams, because those hours are going to be beneficial to them in terms of revising and achieving those longer term goals. The second session we did with the students was on planning a revision timetable. And this is something that your sons or daughters might be happy to involve you in, or they might not. And if not, obviously, you know, respect that. You can only really work with them. But some of the principles of planning a revision timetable that we went over with them were, first of all, going through the syllabus and identifying what it is that they need to learn, and then balancing the time between the different subjects. And we showed them a kind of example of a revision timetable here where you can see the actual exam dates are in towards the bottom. They've divided up their time between the different subjects. They've protected some time for jogging as well and things like that, okay? So they have a copy, the students, of an editable revision timetable, and that's in the set of resources that I shared with you this morning as well. So they may be prepared to revise, to involve you in that, they may not, but we've done that with the students as well. And we spoke to them how it can be quite satisfying then as you go along to tick off those kind of days that you revised, or tick off those sections of the syllabus to show what it is. With the revision timetable, we emphasise this to them, and I would emphasise this to you as well, ladies and gentlemen, you know, if they miss a session or if they have trouble getting started, you know, not to beat themselves up, just to pick themselves up and get started again. So I know some students will have been stuck into their revision already. I know some won't, and that's absolutely fine. It's never too late to start your revision. Whatever revision the students do is better than none, okay? But planning that revision is one important principle that we've gone over with the students. The third session we did with them, so this is the final session before PASAC, was you know, how to actually revise. And I won't go through all the details with you. All the details that we covered are in that kind of sheet that I gave to you. But we emphasised to them that there are lots of different ways to revise, so it's important for them to work out a way that's effective for them. It will also vary between subjects, so an effective way to revise in sociology or history, my subjects, will probably be quite different from an effective way to revise in maths. And their subject teachers will be giving them guidance more specifically on how it is to revise. But I think key things for yourselves to be aware of in supporting them is they do want to take breaks in their revision. So, you know, a 45 to 60 minute revision session, then a little 5 or 10 minute break, and then back again for another 45, 50 minutes is effective rather than revising for 3 or 4 hours without a break. We said to them they might want to get someone to hold them accountable. So your sons or daughters might want to, you know, involve you by saying, look, I'm planning to revise this today. Can you check whether I've done that? They might even want to explain topics of the syllabus to you or get you to quiz them, which is great. But most likely they're probably not going to want you involve you in the revision, and that's absolutely fine as well. You know, try not to micromanage them. It's something I find very difficult. We spoke to the students about rewarding themselves after a good revision session. So if they've done a good 45 minutes, it might be just having a little 5-minute cup of tea or going and kicking the ball in the garden. It might be going to the gym. It might be checking in on their social media. But it's about balancing that reward with that revision time. Okay, so making sure that they are revising effectively and giving themselves little breaks. And again, think yourselves about, are there particular little treats that you can plan in for your son and daughter after they've done. And then the importance of sleep. So, not working late into the night, trying to wind down, say an hour or so before bed, getting off the electronic devices and so on, because that sleep is very important in reinforcing what it is that the students have learned. So we've gone through that with the students. I think a kind of key principle in terms of revision for the students as well is really there are two parts to it. So one part is learning the content, learning the formulae, the dates, whatever it might be. And we've emphasised to the students that in order to learn material, you need to think about it. And I quite like this quote, that memory is the residue of thought. So you're going to remember the things that you think about, and therefore the students want to try and use active revision methods, things that are going to make them think about the material rather than maybe just sitting with a book open in front of them. So that's one principle we've emphasised to the students. Also, the importance, as they're coming closer to those exams, of building some practice into their revision. We have students every year that will spend like hours making notes, but they won't actually practice to any past paper questions. So as they get closer to the exams, it's really important that they are doing practice papers, writing paragraphs, practicing questions, whatever it might be. But there's only so much you can do here, really, ladies and gents. You have to sort of give them the space to work out their own revision methods, and different things will work for different students. Now, the key thing really I wanted to talk about was, what can you do to support your child as a parent or carer? And we know in the school we're really lucky that we've got such an involved and supportive parental community. And I know as well that you're very much the experts on your children. So if anything I'm saying here kind of conflicts with your knowledge of your child, obviously go with your knowledge of your child. As I mentioned, I've not yet had the pleasure of parenting a 15 or 16-year-old, let alone a 17 or 18-year-old. What I'm going to share with you are kind of some principles of best practice, but what matters is that you're working out a way for you to work with your child and above all to support them. So you're probably going to need to play a number of different roles with your child in the sort of run up to exams. So one of them is acting as a counsellor, supporting them. One of them is kind of acting as a hotel for them, so giving them a place to sleep. You're going to need to be a bit of a chef for them, a bit of a personal assistant, particularly as they get closer to those exams, helping them organise themselves. A little bit of an emotional punch bag at times, I'm afraid, and a bit of a cheerleader too. And I wanted to really drill down into those things with you a little bit. But as I say, I think the key principle again is support your children rather than necessarily policing them. If you're like me, I'm a shocking helicopter parent to my children. I find it very hard to kind of step back, but you want to try and give them that space to work out how to revise, because they are going to be stressed. And I think the number one thing really is, no matter how much you want your child to do well, you don't want to be adding any stress onto that role for them. Okay, so you want to support them with the studying, but you don't want to do anything that they would perceive as you being hassling them. So try and give them that bit of space to find their flow in terms of revision. They are going to be a bit stressed in the run up to the exams, and a bit of stress is good. They do need that bit of stress to go in and perform in those time conditions. So a bit of stress is good for the students. Talk to them about it, be available for them, but try not to add to that stress. Okay, all of these things I'm going through with you now, ladies and gents, in these next few slides. This is all there in the handout that I sent out this morning as well, so don't feel you've got to be jotting everything down. The punch bag a little bit. I'm sure, as you know, as your sons or daughters get more stressed, there's more likely to be sort of rows in the house and things like that. So try and make sure that you're ready to be that shoulder for your son or daughter if necessary. If they are having a big blow up with you immediately before the exams because they're stressed, I think just try and bite your lip, as much as you can in terms of that. We know that, you know, young people catastrophize. I guess we all do to an extent, but particularly in the run up to the exams, you may find your son or daughter catastrophizing. You know, what if I don't get these grades? What if I don't get the grades for my university place? So I think just try and support them with that. Try and talk to them about where they've been successful with exams in the past, and try and keep their sense of perspective. You know, if an exam goes badly, it's not the end of the world. If their exams don't go brilliantly overall, again, it's not the end of the world. There's plenty of students that don't do brilliantly in their exams and go on to have very kind of successful and happy lives. So I think try and dial that stress down with them. Okay, you're proud of them no matter what they do, and it's not the end of the world if the exams don't go to plan. And emphasising as well where they've achieved successfully in the past. And finally, on this slide, you know your son or daughter better than we do. A certain level of stress is to be expected in this period, absolutely. If you're getting worried that that stress is overwhelming them and you feel it's getting too much from them, then do let us know, okay? And I'll cover a little bit later on in the presentation who the people to turn to are. So that role as a restaurateur, so try and make sure that they're eating and drinking regularly, so they're staying nicely hydrated, they're eating healthily as far as you can. So fish is meant to be great in terms of like memory, fresh fruit like nuts, bananas, all these kind of things are good. But yeah, just making sure that they are eating and drinking and looking after themselves. Their role as a hotel as well, so encouraging them to sleep. The recommendation for a sort of teenager is 8 to 10 hours. I imagine that's probably quite unrealistic, but just trying to discourage those late nights so they're not staying up and working late into the night, because there's that diminishing return the next day. Trying to encourage a good bedtime routine and a wind down before bed as well, because that anxiety that they're experiencing, we all know that that anxiety sometimes feels worse at night, doesn't it? So again, if you can get them into a routine of winding down before bed, I think that's something that's really beneficial, and certainly not skipping meals, not working late into the night. I do hope some of this is useful to you, ladies and gents, okay? It's not stating the obvious. So when it comes to exam time for the students, I think for you as parents, that role as a PA, as a personal assistant, is really beneficial to your sons or daughters. So I think help them plan the logistics, make sure they know when their exams are, make sure they know how they're going to get there in plenty of time. Have a backup transport plan as well. So we do, unfortunately, every year we get students that get the time wrong for the exam and they miss the exam, or they turn up an hour late, and therefore they're incredibly stressed at the start. Or we get students where, you know, the car breaks down and they can't get in, and again they're turning up an hour or two late and they're incredibly stressed at the start. So try and have a backup transport plan. I do appreciate that I'm talking in terms of an ideal world here. Whatever you can to do that, I think is beneficial. A little check the night before, so you know, check they've got their equipment ready for their exams if they're happy to go over that with you. Little bit of revision, maybe a little bit of exercise, but getting to bed at a reasonable hour. Try and eat a good breakfast, and have 2 alarms, I'd say, as well. So, you know, make sure that they've got an alarm, a backup alarm, mum or dad and an alarm is good as well, and then eating a good breakfast, or as much as they can, before they actually come into the exam. If they do have a bad exam, and most students are going to come out of at least one exam feeling that it didn't go well for them, you know, most of us have had that experience, I certainly have. You know, if they want to talk about it with them, and then just encourage them to put it to bed and move on from that, okay? You might want to do some of that counselling at that point, help them avoid catastrophising. You know, it's not the end of the world if one of their exams doesn't go well for them. Plenty of people have a bad exam and do well overall. Plenty of people do badly in their exams overall and have happy and hugely successful lives. So a little bit of that counselling may be useful if they have that experience. A bit of cheerleading as well. That's what that slide was for. I think it's probably a good thing to do to, you know, even now, plan some kind of treat for your son or daughter to mark getting to the end of the exams, maybe a little reward, a night out or something like that. And I know some of you have been doing that already. I know some of the students are telling me about their plans they've got for when their exams are over. So I think something to mark the end of exams with your son or daughter and just reward them on making it through the exams, because it is a stressful experience for them, is a good thing to do. And then one final thing you might want to plan for them is the results day. Okay, so the Thursday, the 18th of August for the A-level results, and the Thursday, the 25th of August for the GCSE results day. So talk to the students about that, okay? You know, do they want you with them when they're getting those results, or do they want to open them themselves? There will be support available in school for both of those days. So, you know, if your son or daughter doesn't do as well as they wanted to, help them avoid that catastrophizing again. So if they've missed their uni place, it's not the end of the world. You know, if they haven't got the GCSEs they wanted, it's not the end of the world. People go on to have happy and successful lives despite not doing as well as they wanted in those exams. But remember as well, there will be support available in school on both of those mornings. Okay, so if you need support with university clearing for A-level students or discussing your GCSE results for year 11s, that support will be available for you in school on those particular days. I'm going to round off, ladies and gents, just by talking you through, you know, who the go-to people are in school if you feel that your son or daughter is struggling and they need someone to turn to, and then we'll see if there's any questions that Mr. Cheetham and I can help you with in the chat. So in terms of general advice and support for your sons and daughters, their first point of contact in terms of general support is probably their form tutor, but they can also go to the head of year. So in year 11, that's Mr. Cheetham and Miss Thomas. In sixth form in year 13, it's Miss Hurst, but they can also speak to me. For yourselves as parents, do feel free to come through directly in year 11, again to Mr. Cheetham or Miss Thomas, or to Miss Hurst or I in sixth form. If you've got specific queries around special educational needs or disabilities, our SEMCO, Mrs. Greenstein, is the person to talk to. If your son or daughter is in Yavna, then again, they can approach their form tutor. They can talk to the heads of Yavna boys, Yavna girls. So Mr. Leventhal, the pastoral head, like Miss Burberry, Rabbi Cohen, Miss Howarth in Yavna girls sixth form. And for yourselves, again, you can come through to those heads of Yavna boys, Yavna girls, or if they're in sixth form, do feel free to contact me. A lot of the advice though moving into exams is going to be subject specific, isn't it? So if your son or daughter is struggling with revision specifically for maths, I'm not going to be a huge amount of use to them, okay? So their subject teacher is the person to go to with subject specific advice, or the head of department. And for yourselves as parents, if you feel that your son or daughter has a particular query about, say, geography, then the head of geography, Mr. Faraday, would be the best person to contact rather than Mr. Cheetham or me. For queries specifically about exams, Mrs. Burton, our exams officer, is the person to contact. So exam timetables, like special arrangements for exams, all of those kind of things, she deals with. And we do also have additional support from our safeguarding team. So Mr. Cheetham, as well as being head of year 11 and Key Stage 4, is also a designated safeguarding lead. And he has two deputies, Miss Downs and Mrs. Brown. So they're always available support to students if they feel that they're struggling. I do hope that's been of some use to you, ladies and gents. Okay, there will be a recording of this, which we'll share afterwards, if you want to watch any parts of it again, or if you missed the start of it. And there are various resources I've shared as well. Do feel free to email Mr. Cheetham or me with any questions afterwards. And we'll have a look and see if there's any questions in the chat now. So if you do have any questions you want to put into the chat, feel free to type those in now. And Mr. Cheetham and I will see if we can answer those between ourselves, or if not, we'll certainly find out and answer if we're able to and get back to you. So on the screen, Mr. Cheetham.
Yeah, so the first one will come in. How many of these 45-minute or 60-minute sessions should they do per day? Many mixed messages of 3 hours per day to all day. So I better have a mixed messaging of all the different advice on how many hours you should do in a day.
Yeah, it's a good question. I suppose it depends on like how much your son or daughter is capable of doing. So some students, an hour session in the evening would be a decent amount. I think some students during the school day might push it to 2, maybe even 3 hours in the evening. I guess once we get to weekends and Pesach, if they can do a little bit more around their religious observance, I think that's better. But it really varies from student to student. I guess, if they're doing an hour in the evening at the moment, that's good. If they're doing a couple of 1 hour sessions in the evening at the moment, that's great. And once they get into Pesach, if they can look to round that up a little bit more. But I don't think there's a sort of concrete answer on that, really. I think it depends on, what your son or daughter is capable of, and you know what's going to be a good amount of revision without kind of frazzling them.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I think as well, once you're actually in the exam period as well, that will be dictated by what exams are coming up. You know, there might be times where there's a whole period of time after an exam where actually a bit of rest can be quite useful before hitting it again. Not necessarily thinking we're going to come out of an exam and suddenly hit it for that day. Actually, if you've got a day free the day after, it might be more beneficial to take a bit of a rest in the afternoon, something like that. There's a question about how will the results be sent through, i.e. by email, or do they go to school to pick them up? Which is, we've decided that it's going to go through Edulink.
Yeah. So we'll release the results through Edulink. You will also find in year 13, if your student is applying for university, UCAS post whether they've got their firm or their conditional university place in the morning as well. So in the morning for year 13, you'll be getting those results, and also the students will be finding out their university places in the morning. And then if they need support, we're here in school, we're on the end of the telephone line in the morning. And I think we'll take the same approach with year 11 as well. So they'll get the results through Edulink, but there'll be a team of us in school in the morning to either be on the end of a phone, or if students want to come in to sort of like help them if they've got any anxieties around their results or wanting to get remarks or anything like that.
The next question, I'll tell you. So when does study leave start for GCSE students? So we're going to communicate all the information out for GCSE students and study leave and the plan for that on the first day back after PASAC. We're going to be communicating with yourselves and the students what the arrangements for the final sort of 3 weeks running up to the exams will be, and when study leave is likely to start. Some of the events will be running in that final 3 weeks. So first day after PASAC, we will communicate all that out to you. Another question. I think we just answered this one, which was, are the children in school until the exams start? Is their study leave? I presume that's more of a year 11 question, but as I've just said, that we're going to communicate all the arrangements after that. It's not as it used to be, where year 11s would go much earlier, a long time ago. There is more of an expectation that schools will keep students in very close to the exams. Partly as well, some of the revision things we're doing in school has changed over recent years as well. So they will be in school pretty much very close to the start of the exams, but we will confirm those dates with you after PASAC straight away.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that question was for year 11. If you missed it on year 13, so year 13 A-level subjects, study leave for them begins the 9th of May, which is 2 weeks before the exams. But teachers may still require the students to come in after that point, and teachers are available for that 2 weeks in year 13 up until the exams start if the students want to come in and work with their teachers. The exception there is the students on the vocational subjects, so like vocational business, vocational IT, vocational health and social care, etc. In those subjects, the students need to keep attending until the teachers are happy to sign them off that all of their coursework is done, okay, and they'll make it clear to the students at that point. Versus that, I think the question was probably more to do with year 11.
I think by the looks of it, that is all the questions. So let's give it a chance. Anyone else with any last questions? You can have a 30-second type window, and I think if not, that's us done.
I do hope you found that useful, ladies and gents. Obviously, welcome any feedback on it. But as I say, it's not an easy time for the students and yourselves as parents, so I don't envy you. I have all this to come in the future. But I think the key thing is, support them as much as you can, but without, adding to their stress, without micromanaging them, which is a tough balance. But anything else we can help with, or any more, any concerns you've got, do absolutely contact us in school.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ladies and gents. Good luck with it all, and do let us know if you need anything. Take care.